Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with red, white, and blue cheesecake bites. That's right, I'm going to show you how to make the world's smallest cheesecake, or at least close to the world's smallest cheesecake. And while these would be great any time of the year, I think they're especially perfect for summer. Alright, I don't know about you, but after 1 hot dog, 2 burgers, and 3 beers, I'm not sure I want to eat a whole slice of cheesecake. But I think I could do 1 or 2 of these. And to get started, the first thing we'll do is crush up some graham crackers nice and fine, which this time I'm going to do with my hands, and then a potato masher. Okay, I usually use a plastic bag and bang it with a rolling pin, but those sharp crumbs always mess up the bag and I can't use it again. So I thought I would take an extra minute or two and try to do this without wasting a bag. Yes, and I forgot how sharp and painful these are if you try to break them with your hands, which is right when I switch to the potato masher. And of course, you can always use a food processor, which is the fastest and easiest way to do it. But then you have to clean it. But anyway, it doesn't really matter, as long as you end up with some nice finely crushed crumbs. And then to this we will add some melted butter, some white sugar, and then last but not least a little vanilla extract. And please use the pure and the real. And that's it. We'll take a spoon and give this a mix. And we will keep mixing until we have something that basically looks like wet sand. Oh, and a quick production note. I did the whole package of graham crackers, which is going to make about twice as much as you need for this recipe. But don't worry, in the written recipe I'll put exactly what you need. And then once that's set, we'll want to go ahead and spray our mini muffin tins with some nonstick spray. And once we've given each pan a little spritz, we'll take our finger and make sure the insides are totally coated. And as we do that, we want to use the excess on the top of the pan, and we'll use that to grease the insides. And then once those have been greased, we will transfer in about 1 slightly rounded teaspoon into each. And by the way, I should mention, you can use any cookie you want. Right, the graham cracker is classic, but if you wanted to, you could use some chocolate cookies or some shortbread cookies. That would work. Right, as we say in the business, if it will crumb, it will crust. And then once we've transferred that in, and we've evened out any obvious uneven spots, we will go ahead and take one pan and use it to press down the other, which is going to flatten our crumb crust perfectly and should give us a nice even layer on the bottom. So we'll do that with one pan and then the other. And then at this point, some folks bake these a little bit before they fill them, but I don't. I don't think it makes any difference, or at least not enough to add an extra step. So what we'll do is simply set those aside while we mix up our cheesecake batter, which will start with 1 pound of room temp cream cheese. And then to this we will add the zest of 1 lime, or if you want lemon or orange or any combination. But I really do love a little hint of citrus in my cheesecakes. And then once we've grated that in, we'll go ahead and add a little touch of white sugar. And then we'll take our electric hand mixer and we'll beat this for about a minute or until it's nice and light and fluffy. And we will start off slow, but as soon as it comes together we can turn it up to high. Oh, and if your cheese is nice and soft, you can totally just do this with a whisk. But this time I did take the easy way out. But either way, once we have that mixed up and looking something like this, we will stop and add some vanilla extract, plus a little touch of all-purpose flour, and then 1 of the 2 eggs we're going to use. And what we'll do is mix that until that first egg is incorporated perfectly, and everything's nice and smooth and fluffy again, before we add the second egg. And then we'll continue mixing until that gets thoroughly blended in. And it doesn't always happen. But if you add both at once, sometimes the mixture will separate, and it takes a while for it to smooth back out. So by adding 1 at a time, we can hopefully avoid that. And that's it. Once our batter's done, we can start transferring that into our mini muffin tins. And for me, by far the easiest way to do that is to transfer it into a plastic bag or a piping bag, and then we can use that to squeeze it in, which is way, way less messy than trying to use a spoon. Not to mention like 10 times as fast. But no matter what you use, we want to fill these all the way up. And you're going to see why when they come out of the oven. And by the way, if you don't have the mini muffin tins, this will totally work in regular muffin tins. Right? The only thing that will change will be the cooking time. And we'll add some notes in the written recipe regarding that. But if you can, try to make them this size, since I do think these are more fun to eat. And then once we've gone around those pans once, we can go back around adding a little more to each one, hopefully using up almost all the batter. Okay, I'm going to officially say this makes at least 24. But depending on how thick your crumb layer at the bottom and exactly how far you filled these up, you might have enough batter to cook an extra 2 or 3, or maybe just pipe the extra into a ramekin and make yourself a little chef snack. But anyway, once our batter's been transferred in, we will want to take a skewer or a toothpick or something like that and give these each a little bit of a stir, which is going to help settle that batter down and break up any air pockets. And of course, if you're not concerned about air pockets, and many people are not, you could probably skip this step. But I don't want air pockets. I don't even want any air bubbles. Which is why after skewering these, I'm going to hedge my bets by giving them the old tappa-tappa. At which point they're ready to transfer into the center of a 325-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until they're slightly puffed up and look like this. Okay, you see how those rose just above the surface? And we have a few little cracks forming here and there. That is exactly what we're looking for, which for a regular large cheesecake might be considered slightly overcooked. But for these little mini cheesecakes, I do like to cook them a little bit more, just to make them ever so slightly firmer. And that's it. All we have to do at this point is nothing. Just let these cool all the way down to room temp. And while those sit, you'll notice they'll experience the old shrink and sink, which is why we really do want to fill these all the way up with the batter. So be very aggressive when piping that in. But anyway, we'll let those cool down and firm up, at which point they will be surprisingly easy to remove from the pans. Okay, just go around with the tip of a thin knife, just in case it's stuck, which it shouldn't be, and you'll see those should lift out nice and clean. And then I'm going to take this one and show you how to decorate it, even though what we really want to do is chill these thoroughly in the fridge before we garnish and serve them. And I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. But what I like to do is pipe some whipped cream on top, by first covering the surface, and then by going around, making stars all the way around the edge. And in the spirit of full disclosure, I just didn't use straight whipped cream. I actually whipped in a little bit of sour cream as well, just for that little bit of extra tanginess. But anyway, the exact topping will be up to you. I mean, you are, after all, the Draymond Green of whether to use whipped cream. And we could just top it with fruit and serve it. But personally, I do love the taste. Plus, I'm calling these red, white, and blue, so it's going to help with my very patriotic design. Speaking of which, once we piped on some whipped cream, we can finish these up with a slice of strawberry, or if you want, I guess, a raspberry, plus a few strategically placed blueberries. And that's it. My red, white, and blue cheesecake bite was ready to enjoy. Although, as I mentioned, I really shouldn't, since it's not fully chilled. But I was hungry, so I went ahead and bit in. And while that really was amazingly delicious, a still slightly almost sort of warm cheesecake is not really the ideal situation. Right, a cheesecake is not supposed to melt on your palate. It's supposed to coat your palate with all that goodness, which is why we really do want these cold when we serve them. But having said that, I could tell these were going to be perfect, and I was very happy with my cheesecake to crust ratio. And again, while it's optional, that little bit of whipped cream with the fresh fruit on top is a great combo. So I really did enjoy that, and it held me over while the other ones fully chilled. And then I went ahead and garnished those the same way and plated up for what I think makes for a very gorgeous presentation. Right, even if you're not doing these for the 4th of July, I think these are very eye-catching. And it's a proven scientific fact that people love eating miniaturized food. And now that these were actually cold, I could finally appreciate them in all their glory. And instead of that cheesecake just sort of melting instantly on my tongue, it was coating my palate and slowly melting, which is not just an entirely different experience texture-wise, but we are just able to taste everything much better. Okay, it's not an accident that no restaurant is famous for their warm cheesecake, since it is just not remotely as good as a cold cheesecake. Oh, and remember that thing I said in the intro about not being able to eat a whole slice of cheesecake? I'm pretty sure by the end of this video, I will have eaten more than that, since these are as addictive as they are delicious. So please, be careful. But no matter how many you eat, or what you top them with, these are fast and very easy to make, and I really do hope you give them a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.